Okay, so I said I was going to scale back my operations, and what you're looking at on camera is what scaling back looks like. This is not even all of it. I have probably about 15 more pots. So this is what I plan on doing in the spring, and this is not covering the stuff that I plan on sowing directly in the ground. Or I'm gonna sow it in pots, but I'm not gonna do it so early where it needs to be under grow lights. This just gives you an idea of what scaling back looks like. I also wanted to show you that is all saved seed. And all those other two boxes are also saved seed. And I have even more, like 2 more boxes like that in another room of saved seed. So most of this is planting just so I can grow it for seed and maintain my seed bank. And that's a whole different video on how to manage a seed bank. But the main reason why I want to do this video is to show you something I do when I plant. You can see right here, there's 2 holes, right? I'm going to plant 2 seeds per hole. This is going to be wild rocket arugula that I'm going to plant. And the reason why I'm showing you that is you can see how they're spaced apart a little bit. That's because what I like to do, instead of having 1 hole and throwing 3 seeds in it, and then culling 2 of the, like if all 3 sprout, culling 2 of them out, what I like to do is do like a couple holes and put like maybe 2 seeds in it. And sometimes I'll do 3 or 4 holes and kind of spread them apart. That way, if they all sprout, I can actually uproot them and repot them in a different pot, and it helps stretch my seed a little bit. Okay, so this is an excellent illustration of what I was speaking of. What you see here are black cherry tomatoes. These are from seed that I saved, specifically from the self-seeded tomatoes that decided to sprout in my lawn, and I have some videos depicting that. So you can see how they are spread out. 1, 2, 3. I had 3 holes, and I planted a few too many seeds. I think some of these may have 4 seeds. I usually don't like to do more than 3, and actually, usually I only do like 2 seeds per hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how I dig these up and transplant them one by one into separate pots. I mean, you could easily just go in and cull them out. Like say you had 1 hole and you planted 3 seeds and all 3 came up. You could kill 2 of them and just leave the 1 plant, which is far easier. But to me, that's a little bit of a waste. So I'm gonna dig these up and transplant them. Okay, so I'm gonna show you this process. And I use tweezers. I've tried lots of different things, and I find that these tend to work the best at getting at these little plants. So I'm going to go for these first because they are closest to the edge, and they just ain't going to grow very well in there. And really, all 3 of them have to come out. I'm going to leave one of these plants in here, and that's the pot that it will grow in. The rest of these are going to come out. And just kind of loosen the soil. You can see how it doesn't disturb it very much. And I come a little bit away from the plant so as not to hurt the roots. And once I get down a certain depth, I start to push this direction towards the plant to try to uproot it. And you could actually almost just grab right at the base of the plant. You could probably almost just pull out the plant if the soil is loose and moist enough to get it out of there. But so I do that at the same time and very gently work it out of the soil. Okay, looks like I've got something out of there. All right. And let's see. You're going to lose some of the root, so you're just trying not to lose as much as possible. So we got a good amount of root there. I'll put that there. And let's see what we got with these guys. Got a decent amount of root on him. And looks like we got success with all 3. Okay. So now the planting process. It's real simple. You just create a hole. Now, tomatoes, you can plant a little bit deeper than the root. And actually, when you grow tomatoes, whenever the adult leaves come out, once you get, I think I usually do it when there's like 4 adult leaves. I'll actually, when I repot them, bury part of the stem And you're actually supposed to do that. It gives it more support, but the stem will actually root, and you get more roots that way, faster growth. So make my little hole in there, put the root gently down inside, and then just gently pack the soil in. Easy peasy. Now, the key is to make sure that whenever you're packing this, you don't smash the roots, but at the same time, you get the soil packed snugly enough that it is touching all the roots. You don't want any air cavities down there in this hole, in other words. So you give it a pretty decent packing. And there we go. And of course, inevitably, some of them won't take, but I usually generally have success with most all of them. Look at this one. The little seed packet's still on there. See, I don't know if you're getting that in the camera. All right. So I'm not going to bore you with the rest of the planting process. It's just going to be rinse and repeat. So I have this, and then I have all of those, and that's just one tray of tomatoes. And I've got everything from greens to more greens to even more greens. and herbs and stuff to do. So that's my process every spring for planting seedlings when I do it in pots. So why do I do it this way? So of course I get back into editing and I realize that probably one of the most important reasons why I do it this way I failed to mention when I was filming. And some of you may have spotted it already. If you have one pot and one hole and you plant 2 to 3 seeds per hole to guarantee that you get germination in that pot, you're going to have some kind of plant whenever you need it. And if they all germinate, you can still repot and save the extra seedlings, just like I showed you here. So let's say you have 3 seedlings come up in a single pot with one hole, and you want to save 2 of those 3 seedlings and repot them. So then you end up with a total of 3 pots, 3 seedlings. You only have 2 ways of doing that. Dig all 3 of them up and replant all 3, which is kind of what I show in the video. Or you can very gently try to work out just 2 of them, but they're going to be planted so close together that what I find is trying to do that, you're almost always going to damage them. And even though they will probably still grow, you will stunt their growth in all likelihood. So if you're going to do it that way, I would advise digging them all up. Or like I showed you, you can just dedicate one pot to planting all the seedlings you want and then digging them all up that way and putting them in single pots. That way you can reserve the light space under your grow lights if you need to do that while waiting to see what the results of the germination are going to be, like if you have unknown germination rates like I mentioned. A lot of the seed that I have is saved seed or it's old seed. So I'm not really sure what the germination rate's going to be. And I have limited space under my grow lights. So if I set up, say, 20 pots and I do 1 hole each pot, I always throw at least a couple of seeds in each hole because I want to guarantee that it germinates. For instance, if I end up being lazy and plant the very last week that I should be planting and then they don't germinate, then I am going to have to replant and they might not be ready in time to put in the ground. So I always plant more than 1 seed per hole to make sure that it's going to germinate. So if I end up with 100% germination, I end up having to uproot them anyway to save the sprouts because I'm a miser. I don't like wasting sprouted seed. It's a perfectly good plant. There's no reason for me to throw it away or to cull it out. So what I end up doing is I will plant them all in one pot like this, and like I showed you previously, and pull them out like I showed you and pot them up. And then that's when they get their light space. That's when they are approved for light. And that way I can, I don't waste any sprouts. And I can also, guarantee to have my sprouts ready in time. And it also helps me keep track of what kind of germination rates I'm getting on each packet of seed that I have.